Michael Savage.
One faction of one party in one House of Congress in one branch of government doesn't get to shut down the entire government just to refight the results of an election. Keeping the people's government open is not a concession to me. Keeping vital services running and hundreds of thousands of Americans on the job is not something you give to the other side. It's our basic responsibility.
Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender.
Faker, Pinocchio Obama. Pinocchio Obama, the biggest fraud in the history of the presidency. Listen to me. Did you hear what he just said? You're listening to the Savage Nation. You've heard about Obamacare day in and day out, which is good. You know it's a fraud what he's saying. You know there are over 1,000 exemptions of companies and unions with Obamacare exemptions. Do you know that? Don't you understand that I explained to you that if you give an exemption to one person or one entity, that means anyone can apply for an exemption, which means that any class action lawyer can sign up a class of 10 million people and sue the government for discrimination, for not permitting them to opt out of this Castro-like healthcare system. I'm going to read to you a list of 729 companies and unions with exemptions from Obama's socialized medicine. I may do it in the form of a filibuster, as though I am a minister without portfolio on the floor of the House, without any power whatsoever, but with a large following. And when I get through reading to you the list of the 729 unions and companies with Obamacare exemptions, you will be shocked, and you will ask yourself, how is that possible? How is it possible that a hypocrite like Obama, who I call Obama's drama, which I call Obama's drama, this is now Obama's drama, steal it and run with it, steal this idea. Steal this idea. Obama's drama is Obamacare. When I heard him say one faction of one party in one House of Congress in one branch of government doesn't get to shut down the entire government just to refight the results of an election, a bulb went off in my head. And I thought, wait a minute, so a minority president doesn't respect the minority opinion? That's the mark of a dictatorship. That's the mark of an authoritarian ruining and running a government by himself. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Here is a minority president who doesn't respect the minority opinion and won't negotiate with the minority. He tells the minority they don't count. He tells the minority in the one party, in one house, in one branch of government, they don't exist. He tells the minority of one party in one House of Congress, in one branch of government, that they have no opinion that matters in this country. So here we have a draconian minority president who doesn't respect minority opinion. Moreover, he lied, because they're not shutting down the entire government. That's a big lie. That's the first big lie of Obama the drama. 800,000 federal workers are not being furloughed. 800,000 are not being furloughed. And I will read to you the names of the groups and the organizations that are being furloughed. And you'll ask yourself, wait a minute, if they're non-essential services and workers, which of them need to be permanently cut and why? Why do you think there is a crisis with regard to this discussion? Why do you think there's a crisis inside this Obamacare story? Because the government is bankrupt. Because Obama's a maniac like King Ludwig II, who is simply printing money. He has bankrupted the Treasury. He inherited $1 trillion debt and turned it into a $4 trillion debt. He is a man out of control. He's printing money. It's like the Weimar Republic. The working people know this. So he lies. He's lied to get where he is, and he keeps lying to stay where he is. And so when he says one faction of one party in one House of Congress in one branch of government doesn't get to shut down the entire government, everything he just said is a lie. First of all, he should respect one party, one faction of one party in one House of Congress in one branch of government, because they do represent a certain large number of the American people. Number one. Number two, he says they don't get to shut down the entire government. Well, Mr. Obama, you're a liar, because it is not shutting down the entire government. Somehow your Air Force One is being fueled and getting ready to go off to Asia on another one of your junkets. Then your third lie in that one paragraph is when you say, just to refight the results of an election. No one's refighting the results of an election. What you did was you changed Obamacare in so many different ways that it's not even a legal document. The Obamacare bill that was passed has no resemblance to what you made of it with your exemptions, your loopholes, and your favoritism. So they're not refighting the results of an election. They're challenging you on all of your machinations. And so again, ladies and gentlemen, this is an alarming time in American history. Would you like to hear the names of the federal workers who are furloughed? And then I'm going to ask you which of them need to be permanently cut and why. About 800,000 federal employees are not being furloughed and will not be paid. So who are they? Well, here are some of them. National parks. Commercial access will be permitted. It will be business as usual for oil, gas, and mining operations in national parks. Recreational visitors to our 84 million plus acres of public land, camping, blah, 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 National Zoo, Smithsonian, National Oceanic, blah, 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 are also closed to visitors. Okay, that costs a lot of money. Maybe there could be some belt tightening. Number 2, Superfund cleanup. What a slush fund that is. What a slush fund that is. Tony Soprano is a piker compared to those in the Superfund cleanup business. If only Tony Soprano could have gotten his mitts into the Superfund cleanup, my God, just think he could have moved out of New Jersey. He could be living in Washington. He could be a senator today. Second only to NASA in the proportion of its employees staying home today, the EPA is down 94% of its staff of 16,204 bureaucrats. 16,204 bureaucrats. Did you hear this? Number 3, flu vaccines. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has a seasonal influenza program which works to monitor and control the flu spread. Well, I believe that, I'll tell you right now, I have never taken a flu shot and never will. Never. I don't recommend it. I think they're the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous medical applications ever devised is a flu vaccine. And I could spend an entire show on why you should never take a flu shot, but I won't do it. So I'm glad that the flu vaccine mafia is now out of business for a while. Number 4, food inspectors. Do you actually think they inspect your food? The FDA is now unable to support the majority of its food safety, nutrition, and cosmetics activities. Do you think they actually do anything of value? You don't think that people pay off these inspectors or pay off their bosses to get away with polluting America with contaminated food products? I do. So we have the FDA is unable to support the majority of its food safety, nutrition, and cosmetics activities, but the FDA isn't closed down. No, it's the inspectors that are closed down. Number 5, water quality. The U.S. Geological Survey's water quality data will not be received, analyzed, or disseminated to the public. So what? Tell me what the water quality data does for you. Nobody knows. It's another slush fund filled with patronage positions of relatives of high-placed bureaucrats who can't get a job in the universities, who want a nice fat $175,000 a year plus a pension. Number 6, here's the big one, climate research. Climate research. Those who are paid, in other words, to prove the big lie of climate change are being laid off. What a shock that is. Renewable energy. Those in charge of monitoring nuclear reactors are still on the job. Interesting, they could segregate those jobs that are necessary, huh? But everyone at the Department of Energy currently working on cutting edge. The word cutting edge is so yesterday. Cutting edge research is staying home. We don't need cutting edge research. It's not cutting edge. It's grift. It's a bunch of grifters paying off your supporters and donors. Let them all stay home forever. Number 8, Panda Cam. National Zoo staff is still taking care of its pandas. Well, that's good. They can afford food for the pandas. But the zoo warned yesterday that we'll no longer be able to watch from home. Oh, my God. How much did that cost the U.S. government to run a Panda Cam? I wonder which one of these left-wing fanatics said shut off the panda cam to get all of the idiots at home who sit and watch a panda and have nothing else to do with their lives while they're waiting for the government cheese and the government handouts. They have nothing to do but watch a panda. That they're cutting off, and I'm supposed to worry about a panda cam? Here's another one. Food programs. Oh, this is one I just right up my alley. The WIC program, which provides low-income pregnant women, new mothers and children up to the age of 5 with healthy food, is not funded as of Tuesday morning. Oh, well, that's a big one. What, as you well know, state-run funds will fill in the gap for these women. After all, they need the food. School lunches for low-income students are not affected. Food stamps are not affected. Did you hear this? Did you hear this? Food stamps are not affected. So that means all of the grifters in the food stamp racket will continue to be able to trade in food stamps, not for food, but for cash. Number 10, NASA. Number 11, courts. Number 12, veteran services. Number 13, health. Number 14, housing. Number 15, immigration. Number 16, financial regulators. Number 17, parts of Social Security. And I can go through this list for you, and I will ask you again, which of the organizations or departments that I just read need to be permanently cut and why? I've given you some samples of those that are unnecessary. I mean, the bureaucrats are not that stupid. If they know enough to keep school lunches for low-income students and to keep food stamps, then they must know exactly which workers and which departments are necessary and which are not. Wouldn't you say? Right? So what do we need all the rest of it for? In the renewable energy area, as you saw, those in charge of monitoring nuclear reactors are still on the job. That's perfectly reasonable. But everyone at the Department of Energy working on grift in so-called solar and wind and this and that, they're staying home. That's because they're unnecessary employees. And so, therefore, we're not being hurt by any of this. It's all a lie. It's a lie from the beginning to the end. And I will ask you again, which services or departments that I just read, or of those that you know, need to be permanently cut from this bloated bureaucracy under Barack Obama, who is the single largest employer in the United States of America. When I come back, I will take your calls at 1-855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282, and I will list for you the 729 companies and unions with Obamacare exemptions. But hold on now. It's very important you understand that when I wrote, and I'm telling you again, because my books are not so much a book as they are a reference for you. When I wrote my last big nonfiction book, Trickle-Down Tyranny, I spent an entire chapter on the Schechter brothers, 3 kosher butchers who sued Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Commerce Department because the Commerce Department under the last big socialist president, who was FDR, tried to impose regulations on kosher butchers, and the kosher butchers said they're not going to do it. It violates their religious practices. They were put in jail by Franklin Delano Roosevelt's minions. When they came out of prison, the Schechter brothers sued the federal government, and they won, and the Commerce Department was stopped in its tracks. We must sue Barack Obama's health care department. Every other department that is stepping on our rights must be sued, and here's where you vicious class action lawyers come in. I'm going to give you the juiciest idea you've had in years. Those of you looking for a new angle, I want you to put out an ad, a class of people who want to be exempted from Obamacare, who are not allowed to be exempted because they're not a member of one of the contributing unions or organizations such as 24-Hour Fitness, Allied Building Inspectors, IUOE, Alpha Omega Home Health, LLC, Anderson Corporation, Bowman's Sheet Metal Heating and Air Conditioning, because they're not a member of any of these groups or companies who paid off someone in the administration, in my estimation, to get an exemption. They're being discriminated against, and therefore you have a major class action lawsuit against Sebelius and against the government itself. I'll be right back.